Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include a massive exploit in Diablo 4 that led to season and non-season characters crossing over. A Diablo 4 job posting that has led some to believe that someone got fired because of Season 1. The Path of Exile devs expressing that they feel sorry for the Diablo 4 devs, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below. But right before we skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. But before we move on, just a quick word for this video's sponsor, Bloodline Heroes of Lithis, which I've spoken about a few times before. It's a dark fantasy hero collector RPG in which you build your kingdom, collect champions, and then use the game's unique heir system to combine champions of different bloodlines like elves, demons, demigods, vampires, and tons more. You can download and try the game for free using my referral link in the description, or by scanning the QR code if you're watching on PC. And by doing so, you'll also get a great starter pack worth $20. There's over 1,000 fantasy hybrid bloodlines that you can make by marrying any two bloodlines, so you have tons of possible combinations for your lineup strategies. And this is all happening in full 3D graphics, so you can really appreciate your champions, because not only do the hybrids carry the traits of their parents, but also aspects of their appearance. Ever wanted to see what a demon and a werewolf hybrid would look like? Well, here you go. It's pretty awesome. The game also receives constant updates with improvements and new content. A new bloodline is released every fortnight. If you're into PvP, the game offers special rewards. You get uniquely designed hybrid champions called Bloodcraft Legends by earning points in seasonal guild wars. On top of all that, there's the strategy game element of building up a kingdom and its economy as you play through a campaign that explores different storylines, all while raising heirs with your waifu or husbando companion. You can freely swap the gender. So download the game now. It's free on Android and iOS. Grab the special starter pack by using my link in the description or by scanning the QR code if you're on PC, and that'll get you 1 summoning crystal, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. And the first 30 players to leave their in-game account ID and username in the first pinned comment section below will receive a free legendary female orc champion, Ugrul, one of the best warriors to carry you in the game. Kicking things off with some Diablo 4 news. According to Circana's US video game market results for June 2023, Diablo 4 was the best-selling game in the US in June, and the third best-selling game in all of 2023 in the US, behind Hogwarts Legacy and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. The number 2 spot in June went to Final Fantasy XVI, with the number 3 spot going to Street Fighter VI. The number 4 best-selling game in all of 2023 in the US was Modern Warfare 2. That means that 2 of Activision Blizzard's games are amongst the best-selling games in the US of 2023. Which is some pretty good news for Microsoft, who's buying the company. Now, of course, to preempt any comments, sales does not equal quality, but the game has been an absolute juggernaut in sales. In other Diablo news, since the launch of Season 1, there have been some pretty major exploits that have allowed people to transfer things between season and non-season. You know, like the main thing that's not supposed to happen. With this exploit, you're able to bring your Eternal Realm character into the season. You were therefore able to transfer gear back and forth between season, non-season, gold, aspects, you name it. Before long, we were seeing eternal characters with malignant hearts. Oh, and not only did they have malignant hearts, they had like 14 malignant hearts equipped in item sockets where you're not supposed to have malignant hearts. Now, this exploit was apparently hotfixed out, and apparently select accounts have been actioned. Generally means banned. This wasn't an exploit you don't just accidentally happen into. You gotta take some very deliberate steps to reproduce this. So the people running around with those 14 hearts, yeah, they knew what they were doing. So yes, it is good that bans were issued for this, and I certainly hope that they're able to roll back, undo all the changes, get rid of all those malignant hearts from Eternal Realm. Because again, one of the core reasons for having seasons and introducing new mechanics in seasons is to protect the integrity of the non-season realm. I covered this in my video where I discuss the benefit of having seasons. One of those benefits is you can introduce something crazy and broken, and if it turns out to be too broken, you just don't introduce it into the base game. Therefore, the non-season, the Eternal Realm, it has its integrity preserved. But now we've polluted the Eternal Realm with seasonal hearts, seasonal stuff transferring over. I hope that they manage to catch everything, and we're not going to see malignant hearts still floating around in, 6 months from now in the Eternal Realm. Technically, you can say account actions would involve bans, could also be rollbacks, could also in theory just be having those hearts deleted off your character entirely. But these are the kind of massive exploits that you really don't want to see. And I wonder if we had a PTR, a test server for some period before the season went live, as we have with Diablo 3. They give us a couple weeks, a few weeks, sometimes up to a month of testing the new patch before it releases, whether this exploit would have been caught. Now, with Season 1 well underway, we have some people starting to ask and wonder, hey, you know, I've been leveling up my character through the free battle pass, and I'm unlocking these smoldering ashes, which you use to get the season boons. And, okay, I'm at, you know, this tier in the season journey, but I gotta get like 30 more levels or 20 more levels before I can use these smoldering ashes. What's the deal? Why am I unlocking smoldering ashes so far in advance before I'm able to use them? And for those wondering why, in my opinion, the answer is pretty simple. It's because Blizzard wanted to avoid any remote possibility of there being pay to win. Imagine smoldering ashes had no level requirement at all. Then that means if you buy tier skips on the battle pass, then you can unlock those smoldering ashes. Those smoldering ashes translate into power, and therefore that would be pay to win. You are paying to access power before another player can who is not paying. So the big debate before Season 1 went live was, okay, how difficult is it going to be to complete the battle pass tiers in the season journey? How fast are we going to move along that battle pass? And will it actually be possible to reach the level requirement of a smoldering ash before you get to that point in the battle pass? Because if so, if you could do that, then yes, it would be pay to win. If you were able to find some strategy that leveled you up faster than your progress on the battle pass. So I think Blizzard was hyper paranoid of anyone finding a way to do that, and they massively overcorrected to the point that I think most people's experience with the smoldering ashes on the battle pass is that you unlock the ashes much faster than you're ever able to use them. Now, using the season boons, you're able to get plus 8% XP. And this seems like, okay, well, this is very useful to me in grinding out those, you know, not the final levels, but I guess once you reach high level, the XP acquisition really slows down. So another 8% buff, hey, that's great, right? Let me also toss on my elixir 5% bonus. Now we're talking. Well, it turns out in both cases, these are additive bonuses, not multiplicative bonuses. Meaning that if you're playing on Torment 4, you already have plus 200% XP. So that plus 200% becomes a plus 208% bonus. So on Torment difficulty, on World Tier 4, that plus 8% XP is actually just effectively plus 2.6 repeating percent XP. If you're playing on World Tier 1, it's plus 8%. So yeah, good for leveling alts. By the same token, Elixir XP also additive. So plus 200 plus another 5%, which is less than a 2% XP buff if you're running World Tier 4. The combination of Elixir plus the 8% is still under a 5% XP buff. There's a number of interactions that I wish were more intuitive for players to understand with regards to things being additive or multiplicative, because in general, if people see this gives me 5% more XP, they expect it to operate that way. They don't expect it to be an additive bonus and actually being a much smaller buff. Now this week we got the patch notes for patch 1.1.1. I go over those in this video over here, but a couple of other things that I wanted to bring up that I didn't cover, as the patch notes are quite extensive and I didn't hit upon every single point. But one appreciated change that was made was, you know how when you're enchanting, you're re-rolling an item, sometimes you get the same affix appearing twice as an option? Well, that's not going to happen anymore. So let's say you're re-rolling attack speed and you're hoping for crit, and instead you get plus all stat, you're not going to have those doubles anymore. Another thing that was clarified as part of the patch, which again releases next Tuesday, August 8th is when the patch actually releases. Some people have been saying, hey, I logged in and I'm not seeing any differences. Yeah, the patch isn't live yet. Tuesday, the 8th is when it goes live. So boss health is going to be increased by quite a bit. This will not, however, affect Uber Lilith or the campaign bosses. Another thing that was clarified, in fact, after the campfire chat last week, this was clarified by Joe Shelley on Twitter, that horses will be able to break through barricades. Great change. I'm not 100% sure if it's coming with this patch or in the future, though. Then in other Diablo 4 news, Game Rant caught an interesting job posting that Blizzard listed for a Diablo 4 lead season designer. And this was spotted shortly after the backlash that we started seeing about Season 1. The job posting wasn't up for very long, however. If you go look for it now, you won't find it, but GameRant had screenshotted it. So what some people are interpreting this to mean is that after the backlash surrounding Season 1 and the nerf patch, that now someone got fired and Blizzard is looking to replace whoever's in charge of seasons. Well, I can't say this isn't the case. I don't believe anyone currently holds the role, or before this job posting was listed, I don't think anyone held the role of lead season designer. If they did, they didn't appear in the credits. No one has ever presented themselves as the lead season designer. We do know that on a previous panel, Tim Ismay said that he was a producer in charge of seasons, but a producer is not a designer. They're two very different kinds of roles within a game development studio. Now, one possibility is just that some companies, Blizzard might be one of them, have policies where they need to post their job postings publicly, even if they are planning on giving the job to someone internally, in order to meet whatever regulations, guidelines, either self-imposed or imposed and negotiated with other entities, that they need to at least offer some pretense that the job was open to external hires as well. So it is possible that that's what happened here, that they already knew who they were giving the job to, but because they're creating a new job, they have to post it publicly. It could also be that they were just hiring externally. It could be that their current people are focused on maybe the expansions, the current lead developers. If they're intending to support Diablo 4 in the long run, it makes sense that they would continue to hire people to fill positions to ensure robust content. So I personally don't think it's a bad sign that they have hired or are hiring a lead season designer. It could be that previously there just wasn't someone dedicated to that again, maybe seasons were being handed off back and forth between the current lead designers, and now they just want a more focused person on that position. That said, I do hope this leads to more content-rich seasonal offerings for Diablo 4. And some other Diablo 4 news. With the release of the new season, we also got a small update on the hunt for the secret cow level. If you need to be caught up on that, you can check this out here. This is where we got most of the initial information. Not a whole lot new has emerged, but people have data mined a stamina potion. It's meant to give some kind of 5-minute buff, but outside of that, what it does and how it's connected to the rest of the quest for the secret cow level is still unknown, but it is something that was definitely added with the preseason patch. So it does seem as though this cow level is something that is going to be an ongoing thing where the devs continue to build upon and add more and more hints into it until it eventually unlocks to be accessed. All the other special items for the cow level are all callbacks to Diablo 2 items that are obsoleted in Diablo 4. Stamina potion as well, of course, would be one of them. We don't have stamina in D4, but it's clearly a reference to Diablo 2. So far, no one's figured out how this item drops, how you're supposed to get it, but the description of the item reads, "What little remains inside of the vial has long since desiccated into powder," with the flavor text saying, "The thought of consuming this turns your stomach." And when you use it, the buff message is, "You are unsure if the stamina potion has any effect." Then some other quick Diablo 4 news. Carbot has released another episode, this one showing the absurdity of some of the events inside Diablo 4 dungeons. Definitely give that a watch. You gotta love Carbot. Then leading into a segue into Path of Exile news. At ExileCon last week, they held a roundtable discussion with some of the fathers of the ARPG genre, including David Brevik, Max and Eric Schaefer. They're some of the fathers of Diablo, plus Travis Baldry, who teamed up with the Schaefer brothers to form Runic Games and make Torchlight. And then you had Chris Wilson and Eric Olafsson, two of the founding members of Path of Exile developer Grinding Gear Games. And the panel was hosted by Crip, arguably one of the most important and influential ARPG YouTuber streamers. Definitely go give that a watch if you haven't seen it. Link in the description. Then, in an interview with IGN, Path of Exile 2 director Jonathan Rogers was asked about his thoughts on what the Diablo 4 team is going through right now, and he expressed that he feels bad for them. When asked about the backlash around the patch in Season 1, Jonathan said, "I mean, ultimately the learning process for running a live game with seasons like this is a hard one. We've learned our lessons about how to do this stuff. Honestly, when I look at that, all I can think is, man, it's tough. It's a real tough situation to be in. I feel very bad for the developers, because I'm sure that they mean well. But yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn." And to clarify, these are statements coming from the industry leaders of seasonal content in the ARPG genre. They have set the standard. They are the bar against which all other ARPG seasonal content is being measured. Now, IGN also asked Jonathan about their upcoming Path of Exile 2 beta, which is going to be in summer of 2024, and expressed that one of their priorities is going to be getting the balance of the game correct at launch. And he says that that was a lesson learned from Diablo 4's launch. He said, I think that you get the balance correct at launch because once you have something a certain way, players are very resistant to changing it, in particular in a downwards direction. So therefore, we really have to make sure that we're going to have a good beta that actually tells us everything we need to know about that. And he confirmed that the beta will be the entire game. It won't just be like one act or something like that. It'll be the whole game, and we're going to run it for as long as we would run a league at least. So months. So that we know for sure like what the economy looks like, what everything looks like once it actually shakes out. Because it does actually take quite a while for people to kind of realize what the most efficient things are and what they're supposed to be doing. Being a free-to-play game, Path of Exile can definitely better afford to give away the whole game in the beta. And this robust testing period will definitely ensure that when it actually launches, there shouldn't be any major surprises. The downside of this strategy is that it might undercut a bit of the excitement of the actual launch. If players have already played through the entire game, experienced the whole story, then they might feel like, well, there's nothing really new. But maybe they're planning to launch Season 1 at the actual launch of the game, in which case, well, they can come back for the new seasonal activities. But that might not be the plan, that's just a speculation. As for Path of Exile 1, we're going to be getting patch notes for the upcoming expansion next Thursday. And that'll give us a solid week to have the patch notes before the league starts on the 18th. We also learned this week that Crucible, the mechanic from the current expansion, will not be going core. And in a major shock to the community, GGG community lead Bex revealed that she's going to be leaving the company. Her farewell post is immensely positive, and she hasn't yet revealed where she's heading next, but she will certainly be missed by the community. I still remember the first time I spoke about Bex in a news video so many years ago, and I accidentally called her a he. On to a quick update on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. While everything does seem like it is moving forward, one of the remaining speed bumps was the UK's CMA. Back in April, the CMA had said that it would block the deal. But now Microsoft is coming back to the CMA and saying, hey, look at how these other court cases have gone, look at how these other government bodies have ruled, look at these new deals that we've struck. We got this 10-year deal with Sony now to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Everything's changed, so please look over the evidence again and see if that convinces you to change your mind. And the CMA has said, all right, we'll take a look. They agree that yes, things have changed since April, and it does merit a revisit. And if following this, the CMA does overturn their previous decision, this would be huge. This would be something very rare to happen. It's also worth noting that during all of these court cases and discussions, the EU actually determined that should Microsoft buy Activision, then together they're going to own roughly 30 to 40% of the worldwide shooter market. But the counter argument is, well, the shooter market is so big that even with a 30 to 40% share, there's plenty of opportunity for competition. Then ending with some Baldur's Gate 3 news. The game just released this week out of early access after a couple years of early access, and it has become the second biggest Steam launch of 2023 by concurrent players, with the number one spot going to Hogwarts Legacy at about 880,000 players, with Baldur's Gate 3 peaking at 594,000 players as of the time of this recording, and who knows what's going to happen over the weekend. Third place goes to Sons of the Forest at 414,000. This makes Baldur's Gate 3 the biggest CRPG launch ever. And it's easy to see why. On Steam, the game has overwhelmingly positive reviews in the last 30 days. 95% of the reviews are positive. On OpenCritic, based on 17 critic reviews, the average critic score is 92, with 100% of the critics recommending the game. I've been enjoying my time with the game. I played it on stream. And if you're diving into Baldur's Gate 3, do be sure to check out my beginner's tip video. We go through 10 tips that should help you get started. Now, the game is coming to PlayStation 5 on September 6th, but if you're waiting for it to come to Xbox, it's looking like it probably won't even release this year. And again, this is because Microsoft demands feature parity between Xbox Series X and S. and the devs are finding it very challenging to get all the features that they want to run in the game to run on the lesser Xbox hardware. Larian's director of publishing said that they hope to have an update for us by the end of the year, which tells us probably next year is when that Xbox launch will happen. But I turn the question to you folks. Have you been playing Baldur's Gate 3? What are your thoughts on the game? Sound off in the comments, because that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discussed the latest Diablo 4 Battle Pass uproar. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.